Come sit, hero. Let me tell you my story. It hurts to think of how I died, but I will do so anyway. It all started when I was a little girl growing up in the castle, being taught how to cook and clean like the rest of the girls. I would do my work and then go play in the palace gardens. For some reason I got special treatment from Penelope. She called me Melantho with the pretty cheeks. I don't know what it was, but she wouldn't punish me when I did things wrong unlike the other girls. I now know that she was trying to be nice to me, but I hated her for her artificial-looking smiles and friendly gestures. Soon this hatred grew for her inside me, and I soon hated her like no other. Knowing that she was queen, I didn't say anything to her, because I figured that this special treatment would help me when I was older. I was young when Odysseus left, so I never knew what it was like to live with him. As I grew older, I started to become a full-time maid, so my days of playing in the palace gardens were dwindling. Slowly but surely, I began to question the devotion that the older members of the royal house held for Odysseus. I asked myself, why couldn't we simply move on? Why was it that we still had to uphold our loyalties to a man who may or may not be dead at any moment? Aren't we free from his power? When news of the defeat of the Trojans reached our barren rock, every nobleman from the surrounding islands came and celebrated the imminent return of the soldiers who had left for the war. At the party, I met a strapping young bachelor named Eurymachus. We danced and laughed, and before I knew it, it was morning and I was waking up in his bed. I never did love anyone like Eurymachus. Then the rumors of Odysseus' death started to circulate. All the other kings were coming back from war, but Odysseus and his men were nowhere to be found. The people began to worry, and the suitors started to congregate at the gates for Penelope's hand, and the gold that comes along with it. Eurymachus came too. It was nice having him around, but I tried to push the fact that he was wooing another woman out of my mind. Years passed with little event. Well, actually, Penelope's little brat of a son, Telemachus, did leave the island, off on some fool's errand to bring his father back home. We all doubted him. In fact, the suitors, and admittedly I, had found this as an opportunity to dispose of the boy, and the last remaining vehicle of the royal family's power over us. Unfortunately, Telemachus did return home, but not far afterwards, a stranger arrived at the gates of our house, and we were taken back by the way Telemachus received this man. We all found sport in harassing the man in insults, but little did we know that this crone would soon turn out to be Odysseus, the bringer of our fateful hour. We never suspected anything when Eurycleia, Odysseus' trusted nurse, called us into a room out of the way as the men held an archery competition in the courtyard below. It wasn't long before we began to hear the chilling screams of grown men being speared and killed. I looked around to the other maids, wondering what to do about the massacre below. Thinking of Eurymachus' life, I silently sneaked down the stairs to peek at the horror ensuing. As I turned the corner into the main hall, I shrieked. Bloody corpses of what were once suitors were strewn across the hall, their organs and bodily fluids staining the sumptuous carpets. I searched desperately for my love Eurymachus, and I was struck with horror when I found him writhing on the floor, attempting to dislodge an arrow from his breast. He turned towards me, and as our eyes met, he fell limp. I ran back to hide from the dreadful scene with an endless river of tears streaming from my eyes. But the pictures kept playing in my head. It seemed like forever, but eventually the sounds of murder ceased, and I was called by Eurycleia to go downstairs to dispose of the bodies. I walked back down and ran straight towards Eurymachus' once breathing corpse. I muttered his final burial rites under my breath before he was unceremoniously heaped into a pile outside in the courtyard. As I cleaned the blood from the hall floors, I realized that I now had nothing left to be loyal to, and the only thing I had ever loved was lost. Odysseus stood in the doorway and ordered some of the maids to come outside. I almost knew what was coming. What a spectacle it was to see an array of nooses out on the courtyard, one for each of the maids that had ever betrayed Odysseus' reign. I was not afraid, though. I almost welcomed death. I had nothing left to live for, nobody and nothing to be loyal to, and nowhere else I belonged on this cruel world that only takes. So it is now I stand here speaking to you, great hero, telling my story, the story of Melantho, and beware, young sailor, of where your loyalties lie, because you may very well